Hello, I'm Sudarshana Starshine Star. Thank you for being here with me today. It is a beautiful Monday. It is July 22nd. It's still 2024. And before I begin this clip, I like to start all of my clips with the 3 opening prayers. They're in Sanskrit and Telugu, and they're short. It's to bless and protect, to uplift and inspire you, me, and this clip. They are the Guru Mantra, the Ganesha Mantra, and the Gayatri Mantra. Om, Om, Om. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam, Tasmahi Sri Guruvena Namaha. Om Suklam Bharataram Vishnum Sashivarnam Chatubhujam Prasanavaranam Dhyaye Sarva Vigno Prashantaye. Om Bhur Bhuva Suvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti, Shanti. All right, today is the last day, the 3rd day of the full moon, and it's a very special full moon. Yesterday was the peak day, the 2nd day of the full moon, and it was Guru Purnima. We're still in the Guru Purnima energy. Guru Purnima means the full moon of the Guru, and it happens once a year. It's so powerful, and I want to say that the word Guru, Gu means darkness, and Ru means light. And what a Guru, a true Guru really is one who dispels darkness, one who removes darkness, one who brings the light. And it's so funny, after all this time and this point where I am in my life, I still have a little tiny bit of trepidation when I talk about my Swami and use the word Swami and Guru, even though my life has been so married to that, to my beautiful, to the tradition and the highest Vedic knowledge and the highest teachings from sacred palm leaf manuscripts that are from 7,000 to 10,000 years old out of ancient India, passed along and given to me, along with initiation processes and endless teachings and so many power objects and so many blessings that are still going on today from my Swami, Sri Kaleshwara Swami, his ashram in Penakonda in Andhra Pradesh state in southern India. He's not around in the body anymore, even though he still does appear. And this is not unusual if you know what a true Siddha-Purusha Avatara is, even though it seems unusual to many Western minds. He took his Mahasamadhi at the age of 39. He consciously left his body in 2012. But like I said, he's still very much around. And my Sadguru, Shirdi Sai Baba, I have a Guru Parampara. That means a lineage of gurus that includes Jesus the Christ, Yeshua, as well as the Marys, Mother Mary or Mother Miriam, and I always include Mary the Magdala or Miriam the Magdala, Yeshua's wife and mother of his children. This Guru Parampara has so many saints and so many beings into it, this divine lineage I was initiated into. Maybe some that are not familiar with Indian tradition or Vedic knowledge might not have heard of them, but I'm sure you've heard of Sri Yogananda. I'm sure you've heard of the Buddha. I'm sure you've heard of, well, like I already mentioned, Shirdi Sai Baba, Ramana Maharshi, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. It's just so there's so many. I can barely mention Babaji, the Maha Avatar Babaji of the Himalayas. There are many. And so what I share from that tradition and that initiation into that divine lineage is not my knowledge. I don't claim ownership of it. I was blessed to receive it. I'm blessed to share it. It belongs to everyone because it's truth. And the divine children that humans are, they need to know the truth. What I feel compelled on this last day, and I'm making it kind of another offering of my guru because it's been very hard for me to speak on this subject, even though I've been, for many years, been pushed to speak about it, even before, like I've talked about recently, before February 2nd, 2019, when I was hit on the head by an etheric lightning strike that knocked me to my knees on my kitchen floor and immediately gave me a huge download of knowledge and visions and helped to fill in immediately some missing pieces that I couldn't understand about what I had been experiencing for decades from my stepfather, Don Miguel Ruiz, the author of the Four Agreements, as well as for a time, for several years when I was his apprentice, and then I began teaching with him, and luckily I didn't do that a lot. I felt not to, and I'm so glad that I didn't. But he offered me, I could have done whatever. I turned down a lot of name and fame because my inner being was not aligned with it. I just was like, I'm not going to be like all these gringas and gringos that just come for weekend workshops or go for one power journey to the pyramids in Teotihuacan and then buy a black hat. I'm laughing at that. A black hat, yeah. Buy a black fedora like Don Miguel wears and my stepbrothers, his sons wear. Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., Don Jose Luis Ruiz, all with their black hats. Now I say wink, wink, yeah, black hats. But all these gringas and gringos that come from all over and just have this little tiny bit of a thing of a connection with either my stepfather Miguel or my stepbrothers, and then they call themselves Toltecs, and then they began charging thousands of dollars to bring people to power journeys to Teotihuacan and different places. It could be Peru, it could be Chichen Itza, it could be, different power spots around the world. But they're all of a sudden in one short blip claiming to be these Toltec masters. And I had seen that very early on. And I'm not going to say early on when I was Miguel's apprentice that I was ego-free, because I wasn't. I got caught by my ego in many instances, too, as well. It's part of the trap of the false light. The false light knows how to hook you to come in through your ego. But it's a torturous process. It goes up and down. It's kind of like when you see people that get indoctrinated into the military and they get broken down completely to below ground zero, and then they get built up in certain ways. The false light, the Luciferian, and also the satanic process is to hook you by your ego. The false light comes, like I always say, the devil comes so charming. The devil comes so charming, so full of praise, so full of seeming understanding of you, seeming to see you as you really are, and giving you things that you're thirsty for, praising you and complimenting you and seeming to open doors for you and raise you up. But after a period of time in this false light process, and don't get any ideas that in that process that you will ever gain any real power, any real Shakti, which is divine energy, any real true abilities to not only open doors and keep them open, but to hold them open and open them for other people in a real way, not in a temporary, illusory way. You will be broken down and smashed even to lower than what you thought possible, and kind of live groveling in that purgatory for a while, and then kind of given a few breadcrumbs to raise you up a little bit, like, oh, is there still a little bit of hope for me? It's a terrible process. And it's a very addictive process because it started first by hooking one through the ego, through the false self. And It's not easy to get untangled from that, but it's very, 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 very possible. Absolutely. No doubt. 100%. So what I feel to share on this last day of the Guru Purnima moon is I do want to share a few things about my former stepfather, Don Miguel Ruiz. He was my stepfather for decades. And I've already shared just recently, so you can go to my YouTube channel, which has over 100 clips on a variety of subjects. But more recently, I've been talking about this. You can look at the titles of the clips and find out stuff for yourself. My YouTube channel is called It's the Dazzling of the Light, where you can just go to YouTube and type in at Sudarshana Starshine Star to access this audio and all the other clips there, audios and also some videos. My TikTok channel is Mahakali Yeshua 9. The username there is at Starshine Star 909. And I ask you, please, if you like this content, to please remember to like or heart it, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, depending on which platform you're listening to this on. It really helps me to grow these channels. I'm very shadow banned across all social media. And this is I'll be putting it on my third TikTok after the first two were banned. And all the other social media, I just can completely always get strikes and bans and thrown off and come back again. And it's just par for the course. Many of you who are listening to this will know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's just been par for the course, hasn't it been? Yeah, it has been. So I want to share two, rather than talking in kind of a normal way, I want to share two stories about Don Miguel Ruiz and why I'm doing this. Like, this has been very hard for me because even before I knew, since February 2nd, 2019, when the Divine showed me unequivocally, filling in the spaces and check marks, that he was a Luciferian, things I had such a denial system about. He was a Freemasonic Luciferian. He is actually a fallen angel. I will say that it was many years ago, but when I saw him, I was awake, and he appeared, and I'm not going to tell you who with, because I think that's a good subject for another clip. He appeared with a very famous, super famous Indian, who was called an Indian saint, and who actually was the biggest liar ever and a huge demon on the planet. The one that my Swami, Sri Kaleshwar, said that whenever this demon manifests on the earth, incarnates, then my Swami has to incarnate. It's kind of like this battle between good and evil, light and dark. He has to incarnate to keep this demon in check. But this demon is so hugely famous and still adored. And because I had been introduced to this demon via my first introduction to my stepfather's family, even before I met my stepfather, I met his mother, which I talked about, Madre Sarita, in the Barrio Logan, in a part of San Diego that's very close to the Mexican border, in a healing temple there called Nueva Vida. And there was a picture there of this huge demon there, whom people in my spiritual group just refer to as Afro Man. And it was hard for me. I didn't even want to talk about it because for a very long time, and I mean a really long time, I adored that demon who's called Afro Man. I didn't know that he had stolen who he was claiming to be a reincarnation of. He had stolen all this knowledge, because I used to sit wherever I was in the world. Like, one of the more famous ones is the Bodhi Tree in Los Angeles, California, this huge bookstore. I used to go in there for hours and sit there and read, with tears streaming down my face, all of this demon's books. And I couldn't understand why people would criticize, because it was the highest spiritual knowledge, you know. I didn't know that he was just stealing it from an earlier incarnation of a real avatar that he was claiming to be the reincarnation of. And I was also saying a namasmara, which is like a saint's personal power phrase or power words to connect with them in their energy. Om Sai, Shri Sai, JJ Sai. So I didn't know that I was connecting really to the original only the original pure supernatural saint by saying that, not this fake demon poser that we call Afro Man. So because I was doing that since I was a girl, and also saying the Gayatri Mantra, which is so powerful, super powerful, daily and all throughout the day, I was building divine protection circles of a sort and kind of helping to level off a little bit from the demonic energy that was flowing on me from this Afro Man, and also from my stepfather, who was ostensibly I was an apprentice to, in the Toltec, the way of the Nahual and the Toltec tradition out of Mexico. That's, what it was seeming to be. Anyway. Oh, yes. I was going to say that it was years ago when I was wide awake, and my stepfather, who, when this happened, I wasn't his student anymore, and I only had him as a stepfather, not as by my own doing, not as a teacher, because once I met my Sri Kaleshwara Swami in the summer of 1997, it was like game over. I mean, when you see the real thing and the real divine and you experience it, there's no comparison. So I was not interested anymore in having Miguel teach me anything. It didn't, all those years I had, though, of his ingrained teachings, it still was really hard to clean those out. I mean, I still occasionally have to clean some of them out. I was so ingrained with that, so hypnotized with that, so brainwashed with that. And I want to make a point that, the false light is so tricky. Like Miguel would always talk about mystery schools and different things and teaching things. It doesn't mean that people that are false light or Luciferian are teaching you something where they really want to pull you away from the real truth. They know a lot, like the Illuminati, the Cabal, the Khazaria Mafia, the Freemasons, the Jesuits, the Zionists, this whole group of what I call the evils. And, they know from the ancient mystery schools, they have a lot of knowledge, but they use it in an incorrect way. So lots of times it's very tricky. You can be taught things and you're like, that's true. Like, what's wrong with the book, The Four Agreements? It's just common sense. But you don't know that every book put out by my stepfather or my stepbrothers is a power object of dark energy. I couldn't believe how oblivious I was to even the cover art of that very famous book, The Four Agreements. I mean, after February 2nd, 2019, when I looked at the cover, I was like, how was I so blind to this? Look at this artwork and the symbolism in it. Oh my goodness. So even having that book, reading it, carrying it around, keeping it in your library, at home, or whatever, your office, it is hooking you to an energy that is not conducive to your good health, your good mental, spiritual, emotional, physical health. Get rid of it, I say, which is why I'm doing this. I feel like on this day, I've been pushed for many years. I've written same books over and over again for a very long time, even before I knew my stepfather was a Luciferian, just the terrible things I experienced that I didn't want other people to experience, but I had no mouth to speak on it. Anytime I would go to speak on it, I just couldn't, and I didn't understand that I had an energetic block there and other things. And also because I was still keeping several power objects, like my huge shamanic stick that was made in the shamanic ceremony when I was a girl with Don Miguel, and with my mother operating as the Nahual woman, and another girl there that I mentioned who I only found out that day later. I just knew her a little bit. She was in our spiritual group, or what we called the Nahual party. I came to know her more later, but I didn't know till we got in the car to leave after the shamanic ceremony that she had been born on the exact date of birth that I had, only just 2 hours apart in different locations in the world. And anyway, during that shamanic ceremony, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but that doesn't matter. I gave my full permission to it. So when you give your full permission, the dark forces say, oh, okay. Like those old stories of lore where the vampire can't enter the front door and knocks, you have to open it and say, come in, like welcoming it in, giving your agreement to it. But I still had those power objects, some very ancient artifacts from Teotihuacan and different things. And, once, of course, February 2nd, 2019 rolled around, I had like a huge box of everything. I just threw away everything, smashed everything, broke everything, took every book, ripped it up, sprayed rose water on it, threw it away, everything, get it out. I just kept a cache of some pictures because I still wanted to be able to show some personal photos in case people would say, "You're making this up. You weren't Don Miguel Ruiz's stepdaughter for decades." So I still kept a few things to show people when I can say, "Look at this." Anyway, even though there's thousands of people that I know around the world that can corroborate who I am and who my family is, but still, anyway. So what I keep wanting to say is that this time several years ago when I was with my eyes open, and it was a time when my biological father was near death, and who showed up was my stepfather. He showed up physically like an hour later, but he was there energetically next to this who I call Afro Man, this being I was seeing. I'm a seer. I was seeing them standing there right next to me. And the first time I'd ever seen this, my stepfather, he looked the same as he does now, just a little bit different, a little tiny bit different in the face, and maybe a little bit taller because Miguel is very short. He's 5'4". He's built like a tank. He's built like my mother always said he's built like a tank. The Ruizes are very heavy with muscle, very dense bodies, very heavy, but he's short. And so when I saw him appear, he had huge black glossy wings, glossy, pure black, huge. And I just looked at them. I was like, mm-hmm. And like I've mentioned in clips before, I see a lot of things. I'm a seer. I see things. I've been gaslit my whole life, and I was taught not to talk about a lot of things. And I wouldn't mention a lot of things to anyone. I wouldn't even write it down in my journal. I would just note it like, mm-hmm. And then a few years after seeing that, I was with Miguel standing around that was after some kind of event or workshop that my stepbrothers had given or something like that. And I mentioned something to him. I said, "Oh yeah, Miguel, I never knew you had such big, black, huge wings." And he just looked at me and he just left his body like he does. He was an empty body most of the time. Empty body means when the soul isn't present. And he just giggled kind of nervously. He didn't say anything about it. He just left his body, giggled kind of nervously, which if you know or you see Don Miguel Ruiz speak or whatever, he's a very masculine guy. He doesn't giggle or whatever. He's very forthright. But when he's the empty body, he can't even talk. He can only say a few phrases. And we used to call him Baby Snooks when he was like that, like a goo goo gaga baby. But he just got very nervous and he just giggled kind of nervously. So I just left the subject, and I just was not aware that I was seeing that was actually, seeing a real fallen angel. He really is a real fallen angel. Yep. And that movie Michael, that came out a long time ago, that starred John Travolta as this angel Michael, was I can't remember the name of the director. I want to say Mark Miller. He had come long time ago to Miguel's workshops, and maybe he went to Teotihuacan with Miguel, I don't know. But he just really wanted to do a movie about Miguel. So that movie, Michael, starring John Travolta, where they say that, they show him and how he's like always with the ladies, like a ladies' man. They say he smells like cookies. He's always dancing and singing and doing stuff like that. Traits of my stepfather. That movie was, Mark Miller is the, I don't know if he's still around, but his famous daughter, who I know I keep saying this, I feel like I've got Baphomets and Satanism on the brain. In every clip that I do, I keep talking about it. I feel like I'm doing Dana Carvey's old SNL skits of the church lady, like, but really, it's just the truth. His quote-unquote daughter, I believe, was a male, Penelope Ann Miller. That's Mark Miller's daughter. And her stepmother, Barbara Emrys, Emrys, who's now been with Miguel for a long time and started writing books with him, or I should say writing books for him. And they have a lot of Luciferian energy in them. They really do. Even though when I first met Barbara, long time ago, when I went up to the Omega Institute in New York, when Miguel and my stepbrothers were doing an event, and I'd always support them. So I came up from the city, I came up from Manhattan, and I met Barbara, and I liked her. But when I saw her speaking at the Omega workshop, and now I know what was going on, but back then I didn't. This was so long ago. And she was really promoting transhumanism and talking about as if like a virtual reality, or we could say the metaverse, or, humans, being this whole thing of like machines taking over everything. I had such a terrible feeling about it. And after that workshop, when I was alone in Miguel's room with my biological brother, who was there, and one of my stepbrothers, Jose Luis, was there. They were sitting on the floor. I was sitting in a chair. Miguel was just walking back and forth, and he started talking about something that he had never talked about before. And he said it with a kind of a glee. He was gleeful about it, talking about how it was obvious to see that machines were the future and there would be no more humanity, like they'd be taken over by machines. And my biological brother didn't say anything. Jose Luis, my stepbrother, didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I just looked at Miguel like, if you could say like a bubble over my head, like WTF, like what? Because he seemed so gleeful about it, like he was celebrating, like it was like something like thumbs up. Yeah, humanity is going to disappear and it's clear that the machines will take over. Well, I was not aware of, Agenda 2021, Agenda 2030. I was not aware of the WDF, satanic transhumanism agenda of the evils of the controllers for this earth, getting rid of 7.8 billion people, except leaving only 500 million, like you see in the Georgia Guidestones, to be slaves, transhuman, sterile, chipped, 24/7 monitored slaves. Oh my goodness. Unable to reproduce. Yep. Anyway, when I tell this story, I was going to tell 2 stories, but I think it's going to get too long, and I do want to put this on my TikTok. Which story should I tell? Okay, so in honor of a dear lost one, Carrie Kropodlowski, I'm going to tell this story. Let's see if I have time for a second one. Now this, I don't tell dates, and it doesn't really matter, but this is way, way, way back in the day. Carrie Kropodlowski was not part of the original Nawal Party, which is the small group that was called of the original apprentices of Miguel Ruiz, and also including my mother as the Nawal woman. But she came pretty soon after that. So she was very much a part of after the second temple was built, called Nueva Vida, in the center of San Diego. And while Miguel was not famous at that time, he was beginning to gain some renown. And we were always the Nawal Party, traveling all over around the world and teaching and doing things in power journeys, but always going to all those expos that they have, like New Age spiritual things, all over California and different places, and always talking and teaching and giving workshops and stuff like that, and psychic fairs and all that stuff. So Carrie came to be a part of that, and she was older than I was, but she was still a young woman. And she was always very nervous. She had you could tell she was powerful, but she had a very nervous energy, like the kind of people that are touchy or just high fuses, whatever you call. And, but Miguel would be pushing her a lot, like trying to push her to teach or doing things, and she'd just be shaking a lot, like when you see like a dog shake, like she would be shaking. But she was powerful. She wasn't cowardly, but there was like something going on with her. And, but I loved her. And so it was it was maybe 2 years, maybe under 2 years after she appeared and was part of our Nawal Party. And what we would do, we had, most of us, I didn't often have a day job. I was mostly always Miguel's mother's, Madre Sarita's healing apprentice in the healing rooms, working all day and all night from huge hordes of people, doing spiritual healing and psychic surgeries and life readings and aura cleansings and all this kind of stuff. But I sometimes I had a day job, and whomever of us had day jobs at night, we would go and we'd meet like about 7:30ish, whatever, at the temple Nueva Vida in the center of San Diego. And we'd be practicing what Miguel called the Toltec masteries, specifically one of them called the mastery of stalking. He later changed that to be called the mastery of transformation, because too many people were taking stalking the wrong way and they were rejecting it, like the mastery of stalking. What are you talking about? But we'd be doing a lot of, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, these are some of the ancient mystery school traditions where this is where you get hooked. You think you're on the right path. It was about mind cleaning your mind. So you'd be stalking out anything inside of you, like your blocks, and doing things in group meditation and deep meditations. I mean, we would be doing these things till past midnight. We would always be working and doing things all the time. And so anyway, Carrie Kropodlowski, after I said it was maybe under 2 years after she was with our group, I can't remember, but she said to me, I'm going to invite you to dinner to my house. I want to talk to you. And I said, all right. So I went to an early dinner. It was still very much daylight in the summer. You know, it was like maybe about 6 o'clock, a beautiful day. And I went to the house where she was living with some roommates. And she told me, and now I would know what to do with this information, but at the time I was just a young green girl. And I wouldn't have known what to do with it for a long time after that, because, you know, you need red pilling to know what the truth is, what's really been running this world and what really goes on in this world. And I didn't know that then. She told me that she had been raped as a baby. And I didn't know about human sex trafficking or what the quote unquote elite controllers and the evils do to babies. I didn't know about adrenochrome. I didn't know about torturing and raping of babies and children, or satanic ritual abuse. I didn't know about any of that. And in those days, I mean, I didn't really believe, I didn't hardly ever think of the devil or Satan. I thought that was just like something very rare, very rare. So she told me that, and I didn't know how to respond to that. I just was like, oh, okay. And she had been someone, I had known this before, but I took it in an incorrect way. Miguel had said, I heard offhand, that he was teaching Carrie and also some man in Sacramento who was like an adjunct apprentice of his. He was teaching them in a different way than he was the rest of his apprentices. He called it the beast way. Yes, B-E-A-S-T. And I took it to mean shamanic, like power animal way. You know, like a power animal shamanic way. I did not know what the beast way was. And I had never really heard of, you know, like the devil or the dark energy, you know, being called the beast. I was really not cognizant of that stuff. But when Carrie, after she told me she'd been raped by a baby, then she told me, she reiterated that Miguel had been teaching her the beast way. And so I said to her, what is that? What is that like? And she said, she got quiet and she said, I don't really know why he's teaching me this, but it's terrifying. And when she said it, she was shaking a lot. Her face was trembling a lot. There was like a huge energy of like fear and terror and a very torturous energy in the room. And it was like this beast way was torturing her. Like it was a terrible way that was torturing her. And what we had been taught by Miguel, you know, that's part of our MK Ultra brainwashing, you know, it was like we had to take everything. We had to be tough. Like you could never be afraid of anything. And no matter what was going on, you had to be like a warrior and you had to take everything and we could never question anything. So it was like we would be considered weak if we felt that we were being tortured or something and saying stop it or whatever. We considered that we weren't worthy to be, you know, Toltecs or whatever, all that nonsense. But I'll never forget how upset she was. And I didn't know why she was telling me this, but she was telling me that she could see a lot of herself in me and she was trying to warn me, but I didn't know what she was trying to warn me about. She just never forget when she said, I don't know, but it's terrifying. So I was very troubled by that, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I was still thinking the beast way is a shamanic power animal way. I was like, what's going on with that? Why is that so terrifying? So maybe it was 6 months after that. I don't know the time frame. Could have been longer than that. Maybe. Carrie wanted to, I had recently moved back into a property, one of my mother's properties that was very close, like a block and a half away from the temple in San Diego. And Carrie all of a sudden needed a place to live. And she was in great distress, like really suicidal, like really manic, like acting really crazy. And I'd heard from other people in our group, in our Nawal party, that she'd been trying to take students of her own and doing really weird things with the men, and some men and women, like demanding they have sex with her, or doing some really strange things. She was acting very crazy. So I just wanted to help her. I didn't know what was going on. And so she came to me, and I always had respect for her. And since she was older than I was, I treated her respectfully, you know. But she was wanting a place to stay, and I would be willing for that. But it wasn't long when she came to me to ask me about that. I had decided that I was leaving the state of California. I was going, I think I was going to New York. I can't remember now. I was going to do something. So I wasn't going to be there. And so Carrie couldn't live there because my mother was going to do something else with that property. And so I had to regretfully, I didn't want to. I could see she was in distress, say no to her. I wanted her to live with me. I thought maybe I could assist her or at least listen to her or do something. But she's very manic. So another mutual friend of ours and student of ours named Todd, I won't say his last name, he was very close to Carrie. And so we tried in those few days, like we took her out to the beach and we were trying to talk to her, and she was just very manic. And she was like very hopeless and acting very crazy and saying it was all hopeless. It was all hopeless. And I just really wanted to assist her. And Todd and I didn't know what to do about it. And then not long after that, after Todd and I took her to the beach and walking with her, and she was just saying it was hopeless and forget it, whatever, I got a call that she'd gone out into the desert. She'd recently bought a huge, brand new SUV, and then she'd gone out into the desert of her brand new SUV, and she'd smashed all the windows of it, like in a fury, and she'd gone among the big rocks, and she had taken some kind of pills or something, and it took her a few days to die in the desert. But her body was found there. She killed herself. And that hit me really hard, like so hard. I mean, I immediately was in the most deep mourning and deep crying that had happened to her. And I'm holding something as I'm talking about that with something she had given me. I'm not going to say what it is, but I'm holding it, that. So I always remember Carrie Kropidlowski, and just remember the callous, offhand way that Miguel mentioned her after her suicide, that we had what was like kind of a quote-unquote ceremony at the temple. It was very brief, and he was just very bland about it. We were supposed to just always like never, just always like take everything very tough and be very tough about it, whatever, and be like, well, she made her choice or something. But now that now I know, you know, what the beast way is, and later I experienced, which was an actual beast, one of Miguel's, you could say, familiars, like they say that witches have familiars, whatever, that came around growling. And I don't have time to talk about it on this clip, but it was actually the beast way, like of the Luciferian. This Satanist uses as well, you know, the beast of darkness. And Miguel has a lot to answer for. So I'm going to end this clip here. I always like to close it with the prayer in Sanskrit and Telugu, what I'm saying is, God bless all beings in all worlds. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. I'm sending out huge love and hugs to you and yours. God bless you and yours. I will see you when I see you. And bye-bye for now.